Hey Channel Insiders, welcome back for another episode of Channel Insider Partner POV, your source for untapped opportunities and unfiltered opinions in the IT channel to help you make better business decisions. I'm your host, Katie Bavoso. Today I'm joined by two guests from the solution provider AEC Group, Chief Technology Officer Brian Lesniakowski and Chief Revenue Officer Ken Rindt. The two shared with me how they implement next-gen technology for their customers despite variables and constraints, as well as what AEC Group is looking for in a strategic vendor partnership. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for joining me today. The first question here has got to be the easiest one, I would say, and that is, what is AEC Group, and what verticals do your customers typically operate in?
Thanks, Katie, for having us. AEC Group is a systems integrator. We, traditional VAR, but we, tend to take the VAR process from the sale of the material all the way through delivery and lifecycle management for our customers long term. We're not really vertically aligned. AEC provides infrastructure solutions, so infrastructure would be common across, pretty much any vertical. The verticals that we tend to work with are more specific just to the region we're in, which would be healthcare and financial sector and legal. But we work in manufacturing and higher ed and pretty much all the verticals other than the Fed space. We're also a managed service provider. So that's a relatively new area for AEC here probably in the last 4 or 5 years. But we do provide managed services to our customers as well.
Brian, something that you told me in our first meeting is that you as a company are focused on education first, sales second. Can you kind of describe what exactly that means?
We're more of a strategic advisor to the customer. So it's not usually that the customer comes to AEC and works with their account manager and says, hey, I know the SKU I want, I know the product I want, give me a price on it and send it over to me. It's typically us meeting with the customer over time, identifying their business objectives, and then allowing them to ask the questions from a business standpoint and allowing us to align the technology requirements that objective may need to have met. And to do that, we typically introduce new products, new solutions, things they may not be familiar with. Our goal is to try and make them aware of new strategies, new technologies, transitions that are occurring in the industry, so that they don't make a misstep and then have to regress 6 months, 12 months down the road. So it's that guidance that we provide them that I think that really stands apart from some of our competitors, as opposed to just being somebody that's a fulfillment shop.
It's a true consultative approach. We have a lot of smart architects that are on the front end of the sales cycle that continue to educate our customers, and they see a great deal of value in it. We tend to have regular cadence with our install base, and where our reps will meet with them on a monthly, quarterly basis to make sure that they're ahead of the game and we're staying on top of many of their needs as well. So it's a high touch approach from us, but at the same time, it's highly consultative.
And Ken, what would you tack on to that? What would you say your differentiators are as a business, and how do you stand out from the competition?
Our key differentiator is it's our smart guys, for lack of a better term. We have some amazing architects that are on our pre-sales team that are subject matter experts in many areas, and they have a breadth of knowledge, but also a depth of knowledge of different vertical stacks. We make a significant investment in that team, where we have a 1-to-1 sales engineer / architect to sales rep ratio, so that it's a highly consultative approach that brings a ton of value to the customers. What else makes us stand apart? How much we care about the customer and the results. And I'd say that our customer service level is above and beyond what our competitors can bring.
Customer first. I mean, we work with over 60 manufacturers, OEMs, represent their products, but we're not beholden to the OEM. We're beholden to the customer. So we really are trying to provide them with guidance that isn't just echoing whatever the manufacturer is saying about the product.
And Brian, when it comes to a customer perhaps approaching you with an idea of a specific solution or technology in mind that is going to be obsolete in 2 years, how do you shift their focus to a different solution? Can you walk me through that conversation?
A good example would be antivirus and malware protection today is obviously at the forefront of everybody's mind. Say they're utilizing a long-standing antivirus malware protection suite. We try to make them aware that, the next generation platforms are available and that they're different, that they do identify zero-day threats more rapidly. They use machine learning. They use artificial intelligence. If they're not taking advantage of that, then they're basically leaving gaps. And if the platform that they've adopted and utilized for years hasn't kind of evolved with the industry, then we make them aware of that. And just as common, I would say, isn't a flaw in the platform, but as much as you end up with technology spread. In many instances, we'll walk through with the customer and say, you're paying for this product, and this product. We can put this in place that's going to check all those boxes plus add these additional features. So it may be a net zero spend to the customer by the time they retire the existing products and the ongoing maintenance and support that they're paying for them and adopt the new platform.
Brian, when it comes to that conversation with your clients, what's typically impacting their decisions? Is it budgets? Is it potentially misinformation when it comes to trends or security? What are some of the top things that you see impacting those decisions?
No, the answer is yes. So everything you just said. It always starts with budget. I mean, the next customer we find that has an unlimited budget will be the first one we've ever found. They also recognize that there is an amount they're going to have to spend, in particular with respect to security related functions. But we're seeing a lot of customers now doing transitions to cloud, and the apprehension there really is it's a new skill set. In many instances, new technologies. So there's usually some apprehension associated with that. And then they don't like to throw out things that they've already invested in. An agreeable approach is not going to be to come in and say, you need to scrap the thing you bought 12 months ago and throw it out because, this is better and let's refresh it or let's renew it. So that tends to put the roadmap functionality that we provide for them into play, which is working with them, looking at next year's budget, looking at the year after's goals. They may not necessarily set a fixed budget 2 years out, but at least they know the spend's coming. And they understand what implications that's going to have on their existing infrastructure.
Ken, can you build on that for me when it comes to talking about that roadmap with customers? From a CRO standpoint, is there anything you would advise them to look into when it comes to budgeting prior to talking to AEC Group?
I think a lot of it comes down to more the cadence at which they're going to have with their partner, with us in particular. The more that we're in front of them and the more of an opportunity we have to have a vision as to what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, the earlier on we can put in position the budget properly for it. There's technical debt that they've taken on that they're going to look to exhaust at some point. That's part of it as well. Those are some of the proactive measures they could take on their own, but including us in those conversations and have a better understanding of what they're trying to accomplish longer term, puts them in a better position to budget properly.
Over the last couple of years here, probably in the last 5 to 7 years, there's been a lot of change in the industry as far as the structure of some of the manufacturers. Some of them have gone private. They've gone private equity. They've taken themselves off of the wheel that the market provides and having to hit numbers and so on and so forth. The VMware just being acquired by Broadcom is eliciting a lot of questions from a lot of our customers who, that's a product that has saturated the industry. And they don't know exactly what their cost modeling is going to look like going forward. It's probably not going to be as attractive as it was in the past. So they want to see alternatives. Are there alternatives? Are there ways they can reduce their spend in areas?
Now, you brought up VMware. And for those that are listening that don't know, Broadcom closed its acquisition of VMware earlier this year. And they also announced the end of the VMware Partner Program as we know it. Brian, for you, from a technology standpoint, how is that something that you approach when you find out a massive vendor like that you said is so ubiquitous across the industry? What is the protocol, if you have one? What does that look like when you have to say, okay, here's how we're going to approach this with our customers, and here's what we're going to do?
Yeah, when somebody that ubiquitous changes, it's significant. And it's kind of a sea change, depending on what the customers decide to do. Now, VMware can modify that, or the Broadcom people can modify that by making the terms as attractive as they were before for what their pricing looks like. From my perspective, it's being aware of what the alternatives are. Being aware of, can you displace VMware with a Hyper-V, with a Nutanix AHV? And if you do, what are the drawbacks? It's probably not going to be like for like. They're not apples to apples products. So, it's more walking through them with them and saying, okay, you're running Linux workloads, you're running Windows workloads. Those workloads will transfer and they will run. They will run normally. Your ability to do live migrations will still work. Maybe it impacts your DR strategy. Maybe your fundamental replication model was built around VMware replication. So we'd have to walk through to make sure that that's going to be accommodated should you make a transition from, say, a VMware hypervisor to Nutanix AHV. It could be something associated with your virtual appliances. Typically, The functionality that most organizations use falls in that kind of 90 percentile, and all of them use them. It's that extra 10 that usually is the differentiator that drives them to something like a VMware, and third-party support. So, if I'm running VMware and I'm running a bunch of Cisco virtual security appliances, then I know that they were tested and validated on that platform. If I adopt a different hypervisor, I have to see whether or not those virtual appliances can be transitioned and run effectively, because there's underlying network functions and things that it depended on with respect to VMware that may not be there in AHV. Walking customers through that and getting them to understand that it's not just as simple as looking at it from a price standpoint. There is a functionality, and there may be some things that you have to change or deviate from the process that you used in the past. But once they're aware of those, then they can make an educated decision as to whether they make that transition or whether they maintain status quo.
Going from that, you mentioned it, you have to make the decision. Is that going to be something that you continue with, or are you going to find a different vendor when it comes to something along the lines of such a big change in this space? What do you look for in a vendor in a situation like that when you need to switch over? Is there something that they can keep in mind? The vendors that are out there listening right now who know that there is a gap being left behind, is there anything that they can do to better secure your business?
The process that Ken and I usually go through from an AEC perspective is I evaluate the technology. So I'm looking as to how the technology aligns with what the industry is doing. Maybe it's something net new. So if they've introduced some new feature or capability that stands out from the crowd, then that merits being investigated. So staying abreast of what their technologies offer in a competitive state. And we break everything into solution categories. So, everything under a solution category, there may be 10, 15 vendors that we're watching in that space. We don't adopt all of them. If to get on our line card, they have to not only solve the challenges that customers present to them, but they also have to work well with others, because none of these things kind of work in a silo anymore. They all have to complement one another. And once I've said, okay, I believe in this technology, I think it works well with our suite of products and will fit in the ecosystem that we try and present to our customers, I take it to Ken, and Ken then evaluates it more from is there a market for it, and what's the strength of the business, and I'll let him speak to that.
Strength of the business is one thing, but if they're channel first, that's very important to us. If Brian vets it and he recognizes that it can address the needs of our customers and it's going to fit, then it's up to me to basically figure out if that's a safe person to partner with. You need to trust the people that you're working with. And with some of the stuff that has gone on recently with the acquisitions, whether it be private equity coming in and snatching someone up, or whether it be acquisition via, from another public player, decimating and blowing up a channel program creates a lack of trust in some areas. So, the alternatives are people that have a good track record, that are partner-led, partner first, and truly want to embrace and engage with the channel, and also have healthy channel programs. Profitability is important as well. Let's be honest, we're all in business to make money here. And if they're eroding the profitability moving forward, it's going to be less of a chance that we're going to want to double down on them and move forward with taking in the market.
Are there any trends that you're investing in this year that are going to become a part of your portfolio, or going to work in there somehow with the solutions from the vendors you partner with, whether that be AI, whether that be machine learning? Is there anything that you are putting your focus and your dollars and effort into?
Well, both of what you just said, AI and machine learning, although maybe not in the context that most people would think, So, whether somebody's looking to adopt something like Copilot from Microsoft, that's going to be a big push in the industry. You're going to see that become, spread across and almost ubiquitous, almost like Teams. What we're seeing is a lot of challenge where you've got SaaS delivered applications, you've got on-prem applications, you've got applications that are running in cloud. Where does the identity come from? That's the first thing that everybody has to solve. What's the de facto identity provider? So platforms and products around identity and protection of that identity, whether it be multi-factor authentication or secondary ways for authenticating a user, and extending that into their application ecosystem. So if they've got SaaS apps, they don't have to maintain credentials for every application. The other thing is visibility. Customers are looking for the ways to, how do I get metrics off of the performance? How do I compare it to yesterday? It might not be performance driven. It might be security related. But how do I get visibility across the spectrum when everything's not sitting in my data center or in my server room? Now I've got things out on public cloud. I've got things in hosted environments. users have the ability to move data around, put it on their laptops? How do I protect the corporate assets? How do I protect the user from themselves? And then machine learning, we would use that more from an automation standpoint, especially as it relates to security. I mean, threats are so rapid now that it's impossible for you to do a signature match. You have to look for a threat because it's just not behaving the way it behaved yesterday. So it's really an anomaly detection system. Human beings aren't good at that, but machine learning is.
Well, something I'd love to know is there a success story that you might be able to tell me in which AEC Group was able to bring a customer past their challenge in 2024, or in this case, in the last calendar year?
The multinational organization, all their IT was either co-located down in the Sterling, Virginia data center area or on public cloud in the European data centers. So they had European Azure tenants, they had European 365, they had some US-based and US East. They were held under an umbrella corp, and they not only had to spin out from that organization, but they had to do it without any downtime. And they were being managed from a managed services provider, a national international managed services provider at the same time. So we had to transition the support, not only for their IT environment, but also for their voice system. So we had to cut them from cloud to cloud, from tenant to tenant, from on-prem to cloud, and move their entire voice system and accomplish all of that within a 12-month window with limited or no downtime. And we were able to facilitate that.
Very well put. And have you both caught up on your sleep since then?
Sort of.
Are there any strategic vendor partners or solutions that you would like to shout out right now? Anybody that is offering, whether it be support or just really great tech?
We work very closely with the Nutanix team. What they do and what they're bringing to the table for customers, they provide a lot of options. They're providing something that's relatively unique in that you can extend your on-prem cloud services to public cloud and still maintain the same management layer. The other one might surprise some people, and because I don't think people think of them as innovating that much because they're just one of the behemoths, is Microsoft. What they can provide today under their cloud services, it's light years ahead of where we were 24 months ago, 36 months ago. We work with a security vendor called Abnormal Security that takes a different approach to email gateway protection. That doesn't displace the other vendors we work with, like Proofpoint and Cisco in that area. They just take a different tack to it, and they're cloud only. So they do a much more aggressive approach to blocking spam and unwanted email than, say, some of the other vendors do. That differentiates them in the space. That allows them to get on our line card, because if we have a customer that is a particular pain point for, then it might be a good fit for them.
I'd like to echo Brian's statements in regards to Nutanix, though. Their tech is phenomenal, but in addition, their channel programs that they have put in place, and they're ever evolving, but they put a lot of specific programs in place for us to continue to grow. And they care about the partnership more so than just caring about their own profitability. HP Aruba's been fantastic for us as well from a channel standpoint. And there's a couple smaller players and new players that are on we're starting to engage with, specifically Control Up. They're putting together a fantastic partner program as well. And we're excited about engaging with them.
That would throw Rubrik in there as well. They've really differentiated themselves in the data management space, and it's really their recovery capabilities that's differentiated them. Another vendor that we think is particularly interesting, and we've had it on the line card for a while, but it's taken some time for the need to be exposed for customers, is a platform called Varonis.
Now, if I'm an IT buyer, a CIO, or a business who just needs your services, where can I find you and how can I reach out to you?
You can find us online at www.aecgroup.com.
Ken, Brian, thank you both so much for your time today. I appreciate it, and I hope you come back in the future. Thanks again to Ken and Brian for joining me today. And thank you for watching or listening to this episode of Channel Insider Partner POV. We put out a new video and podcast every Thursday. You can check those out on channelinsider.com or on our YouTube page at channelinsider_news and trends. You can also listen to our podcasts on your preferred podcast platform. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow wherever possible so you never miss an episode. If you want to be on the show or you've got a question for me or one of my guests, you can email me at partnerpov@channelinsider.com. Once again, I'm Katie Bavoso, and I'll see you next time.